All right, so I don't know what made me think about this on the way to the gym, but the divide and rule tactic is just so clear. First thing is that, I wrote this song and I basically am like, countries are essentially the slave plantations of the modern day, even though they still kind of were before, but it was more meta before. Now it's clear where it's just like, okay, slave plantations, they would make sure that slaves were separated from each other that spoke the same language so that they weren't able to, um, communicate with each other, to revolt or run away. The separated families. Um, all these tactics are still used in like country terminology where it's like, okay, you have all these different countries where everybody speaks different languages, and you know like even in the video where I was like, I want to speak a bunch of languages, it's hard to like have a global zeitgeist or a global kind of understanding of the state of the world. I mean, I even go on TikTok and I see they're like, hey guys, do you know what's happening in Germany right now? Or hey guys, do you know what's happening in like all these other countries where, the media is obviously not going to cover it. It's just a hand of the few that are controlling the many. But the second piece outside of the countries and the plantations is like, okay, now when you get inside the country or when you get inside the plantation, you just split people up. You got Republicans, you got Democrats, right? So the easiest way to divide and rule is just say, hey, split it right down the middle. Let's try to get half these people to get on one side and half these people to get on the other side. And the crazy thing about it is, all these people are doing is splitting up within an already fucked up system to be like, hey, who do you want your overseer to be? Like, I don't know if I was writing this or I said it in a video, but it's never a question of like, hey, do you want to vote on a new system of government? It's always, hey, we're sticking with our government, okay? We're not going to question that. The only thing you get to vote on is who your overseer is, right? But there's never an election of like, hey, do you want to continue down this path of government that we have? Which seems like such an obvious thing that you would want people to vote on. But for some reason, of course, reasons that we know, for control and power and to rule and to have a hierarchy, that's never an election question, right? So now I was just driving and I was just thinking like, man, how clear is that? How obvious is it that, you got different plantations, and then within the plantation you have basically different factions that fight against each other so that they're not focused on actually taking down the system of power itself, the organization, right? It's basically like having, a team together, and it's like one team, but then you give half the team one objective and the other half another objective, right? And say it's a basketball team or something, and the whole time, the team is arguing about what objective they got to follow. Meanwhile, the ref is rigging the game and calling all these crazy fouls and things that don't exist, basically to help the opponent win. So yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to say that briefly. If anybody else sees that, like, let me know. I just think it's wild that it just seems so obvious, but then it just seems like, damn, like they made it seem so easy that, like, why are people so easily manipulated? And I think I understand why. It's like they've controlled, like I said in other videos, they've controlled from seed to death your life, pretty much, right? So it's like what you learn as a seed, what you learn as a child, how you learn to interact with the world, how you learn to obey people that people say have authority over you, how to give up your control, how to give up your autonomy, how to stop fighting back for your own independence. They teach you at a very early age and punish you, for being different or being unique or standing out. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should like stop the video here because I feel like maybe there's something else, but maybe I should just stop the video because it's just like, okay, what else do I need to say? That's just what I was thinking about, and I just want to see if anybody else feels that same way. It's like, how clear can it get? How clear cut can it get? Where it's just like, okay, you divide people into countries, speak different languages, then you divide people into Republican and Democrat or whatever. Every country has their own, basically two-party system at this point everywhere. You have other parties, of course, but it's not the main divide and conquer, divide and rule. And then you feed them different messages. They consume different media. And that's another thing I can make a whole video about is media, which is just like how disappointing it is that it's just like, because people are so confined and controlled by technology these days, it's like everything they get is from media. Now things like an in-person conversation where it's like original ideas are just like, hey, this is me and this is you and this is us. No, everything's like a media angle where everything a lot of things that people consume the other day are from TV or from social media, where they're being basically fed ideas. And, by humans, learning throughout their lives to repeat what other people do and to kind of like blend in and feed into systems, they kind of just repeat what they've already seen. And yeah, it's just like, okay, that's a crazy thing, because now it's like you're really being controlled because you're just being fed what to think about, what to say, what your opinions are, what's important. I'll end on this, okay? This is kind of tangential more into the media bucket, but I was just thinking about the other day, it's just like how fucked up it is that all the millions of people that watch news, all the millions of people that use social media, that follow pretty much the same pattern and narrative as the dominant narrative, which is mostly controlled and fed a bunch of money to maintain their, status or hierarchy. But I was on TikTok and I saw, I think the New York Times article about how Mark Zuckerberg is basically like pissing off all of his neighbors, and he's buying up all these houses next to each other in Palo Alto, and it's always crowded and whatever, all these things, right? And I just thought, what if on the news, instead of like always covering, say for example, like OpenAI, Sam Altman, what if instead of like having all these interviews and showing them on the news or having him on interviews and things like that, every day they just showed his house, or they just like showed Mark Zuckerberg's like 5 or 6, no, it's not, he has 5 houses that make up one compound, and then he has another house for a private school, and then another house for something guests, and all these other things, right? So it's like, what if every day on the news they just showed that? Like, to me, that would be a very clear indication to make it obvious to everybody that they're not winning this game. This shit is rigged, and not even that this shit is rigged, but you shouldn't even be buying into a system where, why are you trusting and listening to people that have these certain lifestyles and are not going out of their ways to be like, hey, this system is unfair. Nobody should be living like this while other people are barely able to put food on the table, if they even have a table, if they even have a home. How much different people would see the world, and that's just to me indicative of like how much media controls how you see the world. And I guess that's where media, as the word comes from, medium, because it basically funnels your vision to see the world in a certain way. If every time I open my phone, and there was an Apple regulation where it's like, instead of saying you can't jailbreak your iPhone, they were like, oh, you can't change the background, and the background is going to be basically a live stream of the houses of the wealthiest people on earth. That would piss people off, and people would be driven to action, but instead they're fed these bullshit stories. It's just ridiculous. So I'll just leave y'all with that. Hopefully you have a great day, night, year, life. It's gonna end soon, y'all, so take care.